ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's after hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy with a low of 33, then Wednesday, cloudy with a high of 44. For more than 40 years, the Great Wall Restaurant has been serving up Szechuan and Mandarin favorites. The Great Wall is located just north of 50th in France on the Minneapolis-Edina City line. Check them out at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you so very much for joining us. Happy Monday to everybody out there. 'Tis the season, and I don't mean Christmas or Thanksgiving. I mean we're just under a week away from the anniversary, the 62nd anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And every year I have done different versions of talking about it. We've had Paul Blake Smith on a number of times, who is an invaluable with this information. And, I think the first year that I had someone on talking about it, he was talking about conspiracy theories in particular, maybe not necessarily only about JFK. And I remember he wrote a very good book, but it was also kind of disappointing in a small way, because he really glossed over the whole conspiracy theory around JFK. And if you're going to be writing about conspiracy theories, I understand that's a rabbit hole, but it was like, boy, you would have thought there would have been a lot more to it than that. But there we are. And so wherever possible, I've been trying to bring in, especially this time of year, conversations about all about the conspiracy theories. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, I tend to go back and forth on this. I think overall I just feel like that there's too much out there that is kind of pointing to a conspiracy, but there's also a lot of reasons why people have some very logical reasons why it's not a conspiracy. First of all, I want to invite everybody to put into the comments your thoughts on it or whatever else. But one of the things I really wanted to do tonight, do you ever have a conspiracy theory that you are interested in, or maybe even, something else in the realm of what this show is, and you find the whole thing fascinating, but there's one piece of it that you find more fascinating than the rest of it? And that's where that's what I want to talk about today, because I really want to talk about the Zapruder film. And the Zapruder film is one, not the only one, film that captured just at the right moment, if you may excuse my vernacular, just at the right moment of JFK being assassinated. I think this alone is the one of the reasons why we have so much conspiracy theories about different things, especially a second gunman, especially the magic bullet theory. There's a lot that comes from this film, and I want to break it down a little bit. And I don't know if I'm going to be saying anything tonight to anybody that you may not know, but at the same time, I wanted to kind of talk about this piece of film and also other films that were known to be recorded at the same time as this, the same day. I mean, I think it's hard to believe, even for, myself, who had been, a product of the 70s and 80s. I think it's hard to believe that, that you just didn't pick up a phone and record what was happening in front of you. I know that sounds ridiculous in the sense of course we didn't do that. But I find myself, even now, basically thinking myself back, like in my own memories, like, why didn't I take a picture of it with my phone? And we're talking like something that happened in the 80s. It's like, well, obviously we couldn't. So that's a non-starter to begin with. And those are things that I just, sometimes your memory kind of slips a little bit. It's like, no, I mean, we're so used to it now. But back in 1963, there were no phones that you took with you everywhere, and that certainly couldn't take a picture. But, Zapruder himself just got a new Bell and Howell film camera, and we're going to break it down what this was. But he's going to go out and shoot some films. Matter of fact, it's his secretary who says, it's a nice day, you have this new film camera, why don't you go and check it out? Why don't you go and the president's in town, there's a motorcade, and why don't you go ahead and go out there, take advantage of this wonderful day in November, it's actually very nice out, and record what you're seeing. And he does so, and he doesn't realize he's about to become a massive part of history, and his secretary is with him when this happens. And one of the things too, that I was listening to some other podcasts today about the assassination itself, and one, and I can't remember the name of it, I'll put it in the comments somewhere afterwards, and someone was on, and people are asking him questions, general questions, and the question really was regarding Kennedy and the day of the motorcade. Is like, why wasn't there people sweeping the book repository and other buildings? Because, and I found this to be, I mean, I figured I knew the answer, I'm sure you all did too, and it's important, and that basically is that up until November 22nd, 1963, that wasn't something that they did. The Secret Service was not sweeping buildings at that point, because they never thought about doing that. And it's one of the things, as that speaker on that podcast had said, it's one of the things about the government in particular, is they're not proactive, they're reactive. And that was what they were in this situation. It's like, oh, okay, I suppose now we should probably have some stuff in place that we're checking the buildings and the rooftops and whatever when the president's around, so he doesn't get assassinated. It's one of those things that, especially for those of us who were, born well after the assassination, and we grew into seeing what how the Secret Service worked, that is something that was very, that now we see that and we're like, oh, well, it had to start somewhere. And unfortunately, it started with the assassination of JFK. So want to talk just, this hour, I want to talk about the Zapruder film. And, we call him Zapruder, but his name is actually Abraham Zapruder. And what he had was a Bell and Howell it's Kodak film, it's Kodachrome film, but it's a Bell and Howell camera, and it's 8 millimeters. And that's, that's the, you have 8 millimeter, you have 16 millimeter, you have 35 millimeter, you have 70 millimeter. And, films are shot on 35. Some TV shows back in the day were 35 and also 16 millimeter. 8 millimeter is considered really for those consumers that wanted just to be able to play with a camera. And that's really what this is. The thing that's really interesting about this film is, and we know so much, about it over the years, is that this film is only 26 seconds long. It's not long at all. It's not, because, obviously once a Kennedy is assassinated, all hell breaks loose. But I kind of thought, there's probably a whole lot more that he shot, over at the beginning of the film of everyone, the motorcade coming stuff. It's only 26 seconds long completely, but it is the clearest, most complete visual record of Kennedy's assassination. It shows the motorcade as it moves through Dealey Plaza, including the fatal headshot. And so it's the most direct piece of evidence showing the timing and sequence of shots. It allowed investigators to kind of correlate visual events with acoustic and forensic data, and it shows Kennedy reacting to multiple impacts, helping analysts estimate the number of shots, direction of shots, and timing between the shots. And that's something that is, I find very, very interesting. Now, what I also wanted to kind of bring up as well is that basically, and I want to see if I can find this here real fast. I got a lot of notes on this today, and I wanted to kind of just make sure that I got this sort of figured out. So give me 1 second as I get to it, because I was in the wrong place on my notes here. And what I wanted to talk about real fast is, because I didn't really know myself, was how quickly did Zapruder hand over the film after the assassination. And so basically right away, obviously after he saw what happened, he nearly collapsed. Could you imagine going out and you're just thinking that you're going to go and see the president, which is pretty incredible, and this happens, you're going to collapse. I understand. But within 5 to 10 minutes, Dallas police officers and Secret Service agents began canvassing the area, and several witnesses pointed out a man on the pedestal filmed the entire event, which is Zapruder. Secret Service agent Forrest Sorrells, the head of the Dallas field office, is told about Zapruder at that point. Now, basically this was all around 12:30 that this happens. Around 12:40, 12:45, Sorrells, agent Forrest Sorrells, personally approaches Zapruder and identifies himself. Zapruder confirms that he filmed the assassination, and he agrees to make the footage available to the government as needed. Then around 1 p.m., Zapruder returns to his office at Jennifer Jr.'s building. Sorrells follows him to obtain access to the film. Zapruder insists that no copies be made until he sees the process film. He was worried it may not have developed properly. And then between 2 and 3, Zapruder goes with Sorrells to Kodak processing plant in Dallas. The film is developed under supervision. That's pretty incredible, actually. To honestly, to have the wherewithal to be like, this is how we're going to do this. This is how I want to do this. I want to make sure it's transferred properly. I wouldn't have. I honestly, I don't think I would have. I think I would have been in complete shock throughout the whole thing. Once copies is handed directly to the Secret Service the same afternoon. So, right away, things move extremely quickly I mean, and that makes a lot of sense. But I mean, at the same time, it's just like, wow, okay. So let's see here. Now, on the film itself, frames, especially frames number 312 through 313, show the fatal head wound. Provided a time code by knowing the camera's frame rate. Experts can measure how fast shots are fired, whether a single shooter could operate the miniature Carcano rifle that fast. This film then was used by the Warren Commission in 1964, the House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1978, which has a big part into how the film became available again, because it wasn't available for a very long time. And we're going to talk about that later in the show, talk about how of all things, Life magazine basically suppressed the film, I think for 12 to 13 years, with a bootleg being shown on the air by Geraldo Rivera, but we'll talk about that. Also, this film was used in countless forensic and ballistic experts. It was used in the film JFK and became foundational for the term the kill shot and trajectory analysis. And there is a lot. There's a lot that this film kind of starts with. And one of the things that I really would like to do in this program today is I want to talk more about what is happening with, what was the role of the film in history, if you will. I want to talk about other people who were filming that afternoon as well, because he wasn't the only one. And some of this footage that we're going to talk about is very interesting on its own. Want to talk about basically a lot of rumors about this film, such as did Zapruder get a poor quality copy back? Did the film ever leave his site and come back to him edited? Those are things that have been talked about a lot over the years as well. There is a lot here to talk about. So why don't we go ahead and do this? Let's take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about all the stuff that I just mentioned regarding the Zapruder film. We're talking about JFK. We're talking about basically what the role this film played. Folks, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey, bacon, avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
And welcome back to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. You know, as we get closer to the 62nd anniversary of the JFK assassination, you know, wanted to be able to talk about some aspects of it. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was the conspiracy about Lyndon B. Johnson. You know, that some believe that he masterminded the entire thing. And someone wrote a very good book about it. I don't have it off the top of my head, but someone wrote a very good book, I guess, about it. And I really wanted him on the show. And I took about a half an hour or so trying to track this gentleman down, only to find out he passed away about 3 years ago. So at that point, I figured, you know what, maybe next year we'll try to talk a little bit more about, you know, how much did LBJ have a part in this this conspiracy. Though once again, in the podcast I listened to earlier tonight, a gentleman who seemed to be very, very, very really aware, and he's very I guess, I don't know, just he knows what he's talking about. And just, I'm going to see if I can find his name here real fast, because it's pretty incredible how well he spoke about these conspiracy allegations. His name is Gerald Posner, and you know, he's very level-headed, speaking about this whole, you know, the whole JFK thing. And he had mentioned about LBJ because people had asked him, you know, do these higher ups in government, do some of them believe that it's conspiracy theory? And he said that LBJ believed that it was actually Castro that had Kennedy killed. Now, obviously, if you are, you know, the person involved in conspiracy, you're not going to be like, do you believe in conspiracies? Yes, because I'm part of it. You know, obviously you're not going to get that. But you know, the whole thing, you know, Kennedy made no friends with Cubans who were part of the Bay of Pigs operation. He left them to basically either die or be horribly tortured. So there is a pretty terrible backstory to that. But what I wanted to do tonight is I wanted to talk about one of my favorite aspects about this conspiracy with the Zapruder film, which is only 26 seconds, and it is what we see all the time when it's really the only shots that are around of. And once again, shots is a horrible way of saying it, but you know, the only footage around of the assassination. That's why I want to talk about this. There's other people that were filming the JFK assassination that day. There is the Orville Nix film, shot by Orville Nix, standing on the opposite side of Dealey Plaza from Zapruder, captures the motorcade from a different angle, including the grassy knoll area in the background. Though not as clear as the Zapruder film, it's considered the second most important motion picture record. Why is this an interest to conspiracy theorists? Is that some claim it shows movement or figures on the grassy knoll. In you know, this is pure conspiracy fodder. If you see the footage, you certainly do see something moving back there. The footage is very grainy. I mean, just really fits into that idea of conspiracy. I mean, this is basically, in my mind, the blueprint for conspiracies. It's also long believed that parts of the original are missing or altered. And that is something that maybe we'll break into maybe in the next segment a little bit more. The original Nix film disappeared after being turned over to the government, adding fuel to the cover-up theories. And so, you know, right there, it's very interesting. Are they saying then that, because I swear I've seen this before. I swear I've seen some of this. So then there's the Marie Muchmore film, Shot by Marie Muchmore, a tourist using a small movie camera, captures the moment of the fatal shot, though from a distance, released publicly in the 1960s. And why this is interesting for conspiracy theorists is that some argue it contradicts the timing in the Zapruder film, though officially considered consistent. Then you have the Tina Towner film, shot by Tina Towner. She was 13 years old at the time. Shows motorcade seconds before shots were fired. Useful for establishing positions of vehicles entering Dealey Plaza. There's nothing controversial about this film, but it's really good for reconstruction purposes. Okay, let's see here. Then you have the Charles Bronson photographs. Now, it's not about the actor, okay, but a federal employee with a camera. He was taking photos moments before the assassination. His images became important for timing, but didn't capture the fatal shot. Then you have the Elsie Dorman film, shot from a high window in the Texas School Book Depository. Shows, which isn't that something, right? Shows the motorcade entering Dealey Plaza from above, long neglected, but discovered later by researchers. I mean, it was shot in the same building that Lee Harvey Oswald actually shot the president. Phil Willis and Hugh Betzner photos. These photographers captured still images during the shots. Their timing is relevant for determining sequence and reaction. So why are these films important? Obviously, multiple camera perspectives should, in theory, offer clarity, but instead, some film appears edited, missing frames. And see, I thought that was Zapruder, but it's actually not. It's the Nix film, isn't it? Which maybe in the third segment, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's see here. The original Nix film being lost is often cited as government tampering. Slight discrepancies between film, lighting angles, exact timing of reactions are interpreted as evidence of film alteration. And researchers have tried to triangulate shot directions using these multi-angle films. Now, the big one here that I haven't talked about is the mysterious babushka lady. This is likely the person that you have seen, but you've never seen what she has recorded. There is a woman wearing a headscarf, hence babushka, was filming very close, meaning very close to the limousine. She held a camera pointed directly at Kennedy during the shots. Her footage has never been found, which is really interesting, as we just got done talking about Zapruder, saying that there was a sweep by the Secret Service, and they swept through, and they took, they got, and now granted, Zapruder himself, he went to them to say, I got this. But what happened to this woman? She never came forward in any formal investigation. Now, later, a woman named Beverly Oliver claimed to be the babushka lady, but her story is disputed, especially if there isn't any film to back that up. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, right? Let's see here. Along that, why the babushka lady? There's conspiracy. A lot of conspiracy around that everyone else's film is found, but not hers, that it's believed that government seized her film, or she was an intelligence agent, or she captured clear footage of the Grassy Knoll shooter. There is no explanation what happened to her or the film. And I think that that stuff is interesting, right? I mean, and once again, this is clear fodder for conspiracies. I mean, this is what we want. This is what it's all about. And this has everything that you have. And this is like what we always call like the game of telephone, or the fact that you have 5 people who see the same thing. Afterwards, you ask them about what happened separately from each other, and every one of them has a different response. This is almost like a visual version of it. You have all of these people and all these locations that actually recorded this moment. And here I am earlier on saying there's not a lot of people with cameras around this time. Well, there seemed to be nothing but cameras, but you get my point. But yet we can't still get a clear idea. And I think part of that is obviously footage is pretty crappy. None of them are very good quality cameras. Now, there's a lot of reasons why the Zapruder film fuels conspiracy theories, okay? And I kind of want to talk through that here a little bit. Some believe the film shows Kennedy's head snapping backwards, suggesting a second shooter in front of the grassy knoll. Though mainstream forensic analysis disputes this interpretation, once again, Gerald, who I talked about just moments ago, he gave a very astute reason for it, and it is based on the type of bullet, the Full Metal Jacket bullet. It did exactly what it's supposed to, and at the speed it's going, it actually, where Kennedy's head snapped is actually exactly where it should have been. Like it did exactly what it's supposed to do with the way that it cut through him. That's what Gerald says. Now, some of you may not agree with that. I don't know what to, I am not a forensic analysis. I am not an expert on guns in any kind. So, it's almost like, for me, it's like a volleying back and forth of, well, this sounds reasonable. Nope. On the other side, the conspiracy side, that sounds reasonable. Oh, nope. What the other people are saying, that sounds reasonable. It just kind of goes back and forth. Now, early releases of the film were suppressed or restricted. Life magazine bought the rights and didn't widely show it for years. The secrecy looked suspicious and encouraged theories of a cover-up, right? Claims of missing frames, alleged alterations, or the film being edited by intelligence agencies. It turns out the film was never, ever edited, and nothing. Basically, Zapruder got back exactly what he shot. We talked about it earlier. He was there when the films were being developed. Film appears to show Governor Connolly reacting late, prompting debates over whether one bullet hit both men, whether there had to be multiple shooters. Frame-by-frame analysis has been used by pro-conspiracy researchers to locate inconsistencies. Anti-conspiracy experts argue the single bullet theory. The film became a Rorschach test. People see what fits their memory. It's kind of what I just talked about. It looks like it looks dramatic and ambiguous at the same time. Oliver Stone uses the film in JFK to cement its place in conspiracy culture. The visual impact of the exploding headshot is so strong that viewers cannot reconcile it with the official trajectory. This is just absolutely just incredible stuff. Let's see here. Let's see. Joshua, I'm just going to the comments. I'm just looking. I don't blame her. I think he's talking to the babushka lady. I don't blame her. She didn't want to be harassed for the rest of her life. But if she did indeed have film, she should have shared it. Who knows what happened to her? Who knows? And it didn't snap, but it was blown off. A horrific day. I wasn't alive. His head was not blown off. The bullet went through. It came out. Not to be grotesque here, but it took a great deal of brain matter with it, but his head was not blown off. And I think that's important to make sure that that's clear, because that's, that would have been something completely different. Now let's get to the film itself. What happened in the years that came up almost immediately, and literally like the next day, Life magazine bought the film from Zapruder. They bought all the rights, and then they locked it away in their archives. They only published select frames or still frames. They did not allow public viewings of this film at all. For 12 years, the Zapruder film was effectively privately controlled and inaccessible to the public. But then in 1975, in March, Geraldo Rivera showed the Zapruder film on his show Good Night America on ABC. This was the first time Americans ever saw the headshot on television. This is in 1975. You know, by the time that I'm a kid in the 80s knowing about this, I mean, this stuff has been around. You know, I just think it's been around all the time, and it wasn't. And the public reaction to this was explosive. Thankfully, this came before the the vault problem for Geraldo Rivera with back in the 1980s. That was horrible. Millions of people immediately questioned this. The official Warren Commission conclusion after seeing this, the single bullet theory, the government transparency. And here's the thing about this film, though. They saw it. This was a bootleg. You know, this wasn't an official. This is something that someone got it out of Life magazine. It was recorded down a number of times. It was really poor quality. So you really couldn't see a whole lot other than just the main pieces of it. From this, Congress formed the House Select Committee on Assassinations. The U.S. Congress created the HSCA in 1976. The film raised new doubts. Public trust in government was low, and new evidence suggested possible conspiracy. For the committee to function, they needed full access to all JFK evidence, including the Zapruder film. But the problem was it was still privately owned by Time Life. So the National Archives then seized the film to preserve it as evidence. So in 1975, the federal government, via the National Archives and the General Services Administration, officially seized the original Zapruder film under eminent domain. The reason given, it was critically primary evidence in the investigation of a president's assassination. The government had an obligation to preserve it for history and for forensic analysis. Time Life was reluctant to allow unrestricted access. So the National Archives got it out. Now, the government compensated the Zapruder film very nicely, eventually, not right away. That even though Life magazine owned the film, the Zapruder family still retained the underlying copyright benefits to it. So the government took custody of the physical original, paid the Zapruder family $16 million in 1999 after decades of legal negotiation. This was one of the largest eminent domain payments ever made for a single artifact. Then the film became a part of the JFK collection in 1992. The JFK Records Act required all assassination-related documents, all photos, films, and recordings to be preserved in the National Archives for public access. So the film's 1975 seizure ultimately ensured it was safeguarded. It was eventually made available to researchers. It could no longer be locked away by a private company. One of the things I'm going to do here, because I just find, I find this very fascinating, is I do want to break into this a little bit more as well, because the Orville Nix film, that was absolutely incredible to hear about that. I want to dig into that a little bit more. So why don't we go ahead? Let's go ahead, take our break here. When we come back, let's talk about the Orville Nix film. Let's talk a little bit about the Warren Commission. Anything that you want to bring up, put in the comments as well. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone
who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey, bacon, avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff going on around here, and it's all good, and I'm really excited. Join me tomorrow. I am a guest on the Ghost Chronicle Book of Shadows with Marla Brooks and Ronald Kolick. That's going to be on the Para X network tomorrow. I'll put that on all my social media platforms. Para X, I've been in radio and broadcasting for 30-some years, but my paranormal journey on radio began in 2015 on the Para X radio network. It's a fantastic network. It's under new ownership now. And I'm really excited to be talking with them tomorrow. I'm going to put all the links and comments tomorrow on my social medias. Please check it out and join in. It's going to be a lot of fun. Tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun, I am going to have on Char Savoy. You may have heard her on such radio shows as this one. And she's going to be joined, and we're going to have Adam with us tomorrow. Basically, both guests, because we're going to go through the investigation at the Pillsbury Club on Halloween. You know, when I got together with Char last week for the Paranormal Investigation and Divine Lights, she was still stoked about what happened in that investigation. I want to break it down, talk about it. I want to break down what was happening at the station at the time. Unfortunately for me, running the show, at the club in the room, just kind of doing the show, I didn't really get to experience a whole lot, and that's okay because I'm glad other people did. And we're going to walk through that tomorrow. It's going to be very, very interesting, and I think you all will find it very interesting as well. We are talking about the JFK assassination, and we want to talk about, we've been talking about the Zapruder film, but I'm going to switch gears on us a little bit. I want to talk about the Orville Nix film now. And Orville Nix, as we talked about, there's a lot more lack of clarity to this film than the Zapruder one, okay? So let's start with this. The film was shot by Orville Nix, a 50-year-old engineer for the U.S. government. Filmed from the south side of Dealey Plaza, we talked about that, as the opposite side of Zapruder. It captures the presidential limousine from the grassy knoll angle. It runs about 50 seconds in total, so it's about 486 frames. And it's also shot on the similar sort of camera that Zapruder shot his on, a Bell & Howell. It's 8mm. So what makes this film different and desirable is that it shows the grassy knoll directly, which, unlike the Zapruder film, which shows Kennedy from the side. The Nix film shows the grassy knoll area head on, making it the best film for spotting movement behind the picket fence, muzzle flash claims, smoke claims, badge man, he's a figure, debated shape behind the fence. It makes it central to conspiracy analysis. This film is really, and I got to do some research on this because I swear I've seen this, and I don't know if we're seeing a copy or are we just seeing recreations. So it captures the fatal headshot from a different angle. So the film shows Kennedy being struck, Jackie Kennedy moving towards him, Secret Service agent Clint Hill running towards the car, though not as clear as Zapruder's. It corroborates, it doesn't corroborate or contradict interpretation of head movement. It may contradict the official version in subtle ways. Some researchers argue Kennedy's head appeared to be moving slightly different than in the Zapruder film. And so, and to basically to Joshua point about, well, the head got blown off, and he's like, well, it doesn't matter, he's dead. That's the sad part about it, which I agree with. The point is that this stuff is important to be able to have right, because this is the way that we're going to know what actually happened. Is this conspiracy? Is this not conspiracy? That's what we really want to know. Now, Paul in the comments says the film and ballistics indicated a shot from the south knoll near the overpass. Very true. There's a person seen there from the other photos taken that day. And Paul, wasn't it theorized that that person may actually have been dressed as like police? I'm trying to get my all these conspiracy things, trying to kind of remember all of it. Let's see here. So like we said, Kennedy's head appears to move slightly differently than in the Zapruder film. The limousine's motion looks subtly different. Witnesses standing behind the fence appear to react behind the fence. I think that's important. To Paul's point, I totally forgot about the overpass. There are anomalies in frames that some suggest tampering. So once again, what we're seeing here in motorcade traveling down Elm Street, the grassy knoll in Pergola area, which includes picket fence, retaining wall, and the area where many witnesses reported gunfire, which would be behind them, not from the book depository. JFK Connolly reaction. Kennedy begins reacting to the first shot. Connolly twists and turns after being hit. Then we see the fatal headshot and the aftermath as the limo speeds away. So why is this Oliver Nix film so controversial? Well, first of all, the original film disappeared. And I said Orville. Orville Nix gave the original camera film to the FBI in 1963 for copying. Now, here's the thing. Zapruder had the wherewithal to go with them when the film was being transferred, when the film was being developed. Oliver Nix, and this is what I would have done, because I wouldn't have had the wherewithal. I guarantee I wouldn't have had it. Oliver Nix freely gave the original film. It was never returned. Only low-quality duplicates exist now. This fuels claims of government tampering, frame removal, and splicing. Now, what also is controversial about this, as we mentioned, is the surviving versions differ noticeably. Multiple generations of the Nix film show different lighting, different contrast, suspected missing frames, strange jumps or frame skips, and some believe this indicates deliberate alteration. Now, the badge man figure, some researchers found what happens to be a figure behind a fence wearing a badge, holding what looks like a rifle facing the motorcade. I'm just going to say, though, how can we be so sure about that when we can say that that it's such a poor quality copy? You know what I mean? But facing the motorcade. Many analysts call it light reflection or pareidoia, something that us paranormal investigators deal with all the time, but it's one of the most famous JFK conspiracy images. Now, motion differences between Orville and Zapruder's film, some argue Kennedy's head moves differently between Nix and Zapruder. Secret Service agent Hill's motions look inconsistent. The limo speed changes subtly. These differences fuel theories of film alteration yet again, which is interesting. and maybe I'm being naive here, but if we know that Zapruder, which is the other film we're talking about here, if we know that Zapruder was there for and was watching the film being developed, isn't that a base set for however that day went, that the Zapruder film is going to be the one that we should be following? Now, someone said to that other podcast, they're like, well, what was the sound on the Zapruder film? Was there like 4 gunshots in the Zapruder film sound? None of these have sound, by the way. None of these have sound. They weren't film cameras with sound. They were just taking pictures, okay? Now, witnesses seen in Orville Nick's film contradicts official reports. A few bystanders seen near the fence are never fully identified. Once again, we are told that the sweeping into the area by the Secret Service and police was very was very good, and it clearly isn't. Appears to move or react before the headshot. Match accounts from eyewitnesses who heard a shot from the knoll. Part of it too is you kind of wonder, because I would assume that area is a bit of an echo chamber with Lee Harvey Oswald firing shots. Is it possible that that's just an echo bouncing around? I'm sure that's been looked into a ton over the years. So the Nix film was one of the worst custody histories amongst Dealey Plaza films. 1963, Nix gives the original film to the FBI. FBI returns film, but later Nix gives it to UPI for syndication. Now the original is supposedly stored by UPI, then becomes lost or misplaced. That's between 64 and 70. In 1978, the HSCA, the House Committee on Assassination, House Select Committee on Assassinations, government only has 3rd or 4th generation copies, cannot locate the original. Now, in the 1990s, leading up to the beginning of the 21st century, lawsuits over missing original still not found. So only degraded copies exist, okay, which is, just, what we've seen. So I have seen it. That's good. I was like, I wasn't sure. And the original is still missing. And I don't know what it's about. What conspiracy theorists claim about this Orville Nix film is that frames showing a shooter on the knoll were removed. This is what conspiracy theorists claim. Doesn't mean it's a fact, but this is what they claim. So frames showing shooter on the knoll were removed. The film was altered to match the original Zapruder version, which is kind of funny. I just got done saying that isn't that the baseline. The limousine stop or near stop was edited out. Jackie Kennedy's movements were sped up or blurred to hide timing inconsistencies. The badge man shooter silhouette is real. And original film was destroyed to prevent comparison with Zapruder. I don't know. Possibly. Forensic experts conclude, though, and take this part with a grain of, however you want. I mean, this is the thing. This is this safe area if you want to believe this is a conspiracy, or if you want to make, firmly believe that it's not. That is completely up to you. But, most forensic experts conclude the Nix film is too blurry to prove another shooter. Badgeman is a reflection plus foliage pattern, not a person. We talked about pareidoia. Film differences come from multiple generations of copying, not alterations. There's no hard proof frames were removed, but because the original film is missing, forensic certainty is actually impossible. So, it's really, really very interesting. I don't know. I mean, what do you all think? I mean, that film, like I said, that film is truly conspiracy fodder. I mean, this is what us conspiracy theorists, you couldn't ask for a better piece to kind of create your conspiracy theories out of. And then real fast, and if I get this right, you might remember that there was belief of a recording of audio from the police that captured 4 gunshots. And what that ended up, and I thought that was the case for years, that there was audio through like a police radio or something on the scene, that there was a recording of someone having their mic on the scene with their radio, and that was recorded, and there was 4 gunshots. But what actually happened was that this was something completely different from an officer that was at the place that Kennedy was supposed to end up for the luncheon, and therefore that never actually that has nothing to do with the assassination. That bit can be completely thrown out. So I don't know. Very interesting, isn't it? I wanted to kind of talk about these films today, and who knows if maybe we'll ever be able to find the Babushka lady or her film or anything like that. But you'll never know, right? I hope you enjoyed this. This is fun putting this together. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you liked it. Go to comment at ghostboxradio.com, or just send me a message on Facebook, all my socials, whatever else. This is really cool. Now, tomorrow we're going to be talking paranormal investigation that we had on Halloween at the Pillsbury Club through the Minneapolis trolley tours. Make sure you're there for that. Everyone, have a fantastic evening.